Hello once again, everyone. I'm Tim Singer along with John Morgan. Welcome to Winter Speed, coming to you from Hamar, Norway, the Olympic region. And you all know the saying, out with the old and in with the new. But, John, that saying is refined a little bit as we look behind us. It's turning the old upside down.
Yeah, that's an upside-down Viking ship, a beautiful wooden structure that will be used for the speed skating events at the upcoming Olympic Games in Lillehammer. And it really epitomizes what the Norwegians have done. They've taken their customs and traditions and ways, and they've tried to show the rest of the world the way they do things here. To me, they've done a fantastic job preparing all these venues, and I think this epitomizes the Norwegian Olympics.
Well, as the Norwegians prepare for the upcoming Olympics, so too are the bobsledders from around the world on the World Cup circuit. They're getting ready for the games, and tonight on Winter Speed, we'll be taking you to Altenberg, Germany for the World Cup four-man event.
Yeah, Altenberg is considered the most dangerous, challenging track in the world, 1,500 meters in length. To tell you how challenging it is, the world champion in two-man bobsledding, Gustav Vader, one of the better four-man drivers also on the circuit, he's not here. Why? He crashed here last year, didn't compete in the race, and he chose to skip this World Cup race. So when the world champion skips the race because of the challenge of Altenberg, that tells you what the athletes have in store for him today, Timmy. But a great field on hand. The Germans will use this as one of their Olympic selection qualifiers. The Canadians with great start times are here, and Brian Scheimer won this race last year, the Americans, but his problem so far has been his start times. He hasn't been able to get good start times. We saw that in Winterberg. He didn't do very well there. And I think he's going to be faced again with bad starts. But on the positive side, Randy Will from the United States has been doing all week long in practice, doing very well. So the Americans could have a hope of finishing the top five with Randy Will.
Americans come off of last season as the best bobsledding team in the world. They're trying to play a little catch-up as they get ready for the Olympics here in Norway. But when we return on Winter Speed, it's off to Germany.
York International, world leader in heating, air conditioning, and refrigeration technology for sports venues. By Columbia Sportswear Company. And by the IBM ThinkPad, official notebook computer of the U.S. bobsled team.
Here in Altenberg, Germany, it has been snowing all day long, conditions which can greatly affect a bobsled race. And right now, to tell you more about the situation, let's go to Blaine Applegate at the track. Blaine?
Weather could very much be a factor here today, Tim. Our weather update is brought to you by Columbia and the interchange system, the system that's geared to change as quickly as Mother Nature. Today's racing will take place under cloudy skies. We have snow here in Altenberg. The temperature is 15 degrees. The track temperature, 17 degrees, and the condition of the track is variable. I did speak to U.S. team coach Joe Kilburn a few minutes ago, and here's what he had to say about the conditions.
It could be interesting because with the moisture like this freezing on the track, I don't think you'll see the downtimes diminish as they had in the past. So it's almost like having a little bit of water on the track, but I don't foresee it being a problem. It's just not really conducive to a good race. And you won't find the track getting that much quicker, I don't believe.
And about the fog, does that make things complicated at all?
A little bit, but I think the visibility would be good enough that the fog shouldn't be a factor.
All right, Tim, so Joe Kilburn very much concerned with the fact that the goggles could freeze up on the way down, so that's something we'll have to keep our eyes on as the competition continues. Tim, back to you.
All right, thanks very much, Blaine Applegate. And right now, here's John Morgan to take us on a trip down the track and give the first heat call. John?
Altenberg is one of the longest tracks in the world, over 1,600 meters long, 16 corners in length. You have to get the great start as you do in all bobsled tracks, but as soon as you get in the first 200 meters, tight, quick corners like this, a shot back left 180 degrees. Now you come into a labyrinth, a three-corner combination that sets you up for the fastest part of the course. A quick right, a quick left, and another quick left, and a long straightaway here. 75 miles an hour into the Kreisel, 280-degree whip around, change of direction. One of the tightest corners in the world. And as you exit here into a curve 11, this is what eats sleds up. Maximizes the articulation. The drivers have all they can handle. This is where they must have the hands of a surgeon, the eyes of a hawk. And here in Altenberg, with snowy ice conditions, we won't see track records today. Anybody in the low 56s will be in the top three. Maybe we'll see a couple guys breaking the 55s. Well, the first guy up, the chance to break that 55 or 56-second barrier, Mark Todd of Great Britain. Simons, Wing, and Seckweiler are his four-man team, and time in the left is the fastest start time so far, 5:46. Mark Todd who went out and recruited some track and field athletes for better starts, had got himself off to a great start here, and watch the athletes as they enter the sled, watch their arms come up, a lot of continuity there, the push bars come down. Good start by Great Britain, number 1. 3,400s better than the team previous to them. So the Brits have got a good heat going here. Watch him out of curve 9. Flops it off curve 9 like all the good teams do. 113 kilometers. It's a little bit below 70 miles an hour. Now we're to that 270-degree whip around we call the Kreisel. And this is where these sleds really start to motor. Altenberg, one of the most challenging tests on the bobsled circuit. Taps there at high speed don't bother you that much. Great run going for Mark Tout. Watch him in the finish. Time to be in the left. Oh, he's got that easy. He broke 56 seconds. Snow on the track. Mark Tout comes down, puts himself on top of the leaderboard at 55.90. The best time so far. Up at the top of the track, it's USA number 1, driven by Brian Scheimer. Him and his team, they won this event last year, but they've got some health problems, and teammate Brian Latour just explained what the problem is.
Health-wise, we're hurting. I think because we're doing so much testing instead of really focusing on the point of racing, that's really beginning to wear the athletes down. And as they wear down, then you begin to get the little pains here and there, which end up affecting your overall performance. I think we do have more than enough time to gather ourselves, go home, take a Christmas break, get a couple of days under us, eat some good food, and then go on and get ourselves started on the second half of the tour on the right foot.
Scheimer, Liturgy, Jones, and Kirby. Fastest starting team in the world last year. This year, 1,200ths off the pace. That says it all, what their problems are. And he admitted to the fact that they had been in Europe too long. How could you tell who's doing right or wrong here? Great entry by the sled. Look at them all get down. Great continuity. But they're 1,200ths off the pace. Now he's 2,000ths off the pace. This guy broke the track record here last year. And now, because of deficient start times, he's struggling just to stay in the top 6 or 8 sleds. 2,300ths off, similar speed to Tout. But again, when you don't start well on this track, it's tough to pick it up on the bottom. Oh, a little mistake there. You saw the brakeman's head bounce up. Scheimer having a rough ride. Another snap off there. Now he's 4,200ths off the pace, 72 miles an hour in speed. Brian Scheimer, the guy who won the event last year, 6,100ths off the pace. Good enough for 9th place. Here's that spot. Watch the brakeman's head pop up here. The whole back of the sled comes airborne. That's down there in the labyrinths. Look at the back end of that sled. Whoa, almost disaster for Scheimer. He went from 2,700ths down there to 1,600ths down at the bottom. That's where the major problem was, that in the start for USA number 1. 56-52, final time. Brian Scheimer not happy with that as he looks at his finish time. Now for the top of the track, Hubert Schasser, the guy who got the silver medal at the World Championships last year for Austria. And his start time, 5.34, only 200ths off the pace. Schasser won the silver medal at last year's World Championships with fantastic starts. And here it is. Look at these big men here. Watch that little hop. You think this is easy, hopping on a sled at 15, 20 miles an hour, then sitting down in there? It's not. Well, now he's -2, so he took a 200 deficient start time, and now he's only -2, which means he's improved with his driving skills. Now let's watch for the speed. He's bouncing around, 113.68, same type of speed as Scheimer. Watch the exit here out of Kreisel. Straight. Now he's -6. Not a bad transition there. We saw Scheimer of the U.S. make a bad mistake there. Here he comes straight at us, 122.73. Scheimer only at 120 kilometers there. So Schasser with a very good trip here, 55.90, 55.91. He's only out of first place by 1/100th of a second. Hubert Schasser of Austria. Great time, 55.91. When we come back, some more bobsledding here. Bobsledding. Up now, it's USA number 2, Randy Will from Binghamton, New York. Chris Coleman from Vestal, New York. Joe Sawyer from Denver, Colorado. And Jeff Woodard, the 92 Olympian from Schenectady. Will's been doing very well in practice all week long. His nemesis, the start. 4 big, powerful guys. Will, very experienced pilot, 2-time Olympian, 5:32 start on the left, 5:44, so just like USA number 1, they're way off the pace the first 50 meters. Good entry into the sled by all 4 guys. Why they aren't getting better start times, I don't know. But now he's got a 20 hundredths deficiency, so 12 hundredths to 20 hundredths. Now into the labyrinths. Out of curve now, let's watch the sled flop. No, he comes clean. The good sleds really flop off there. 112.50. Everybody else, we've seen 113 kilometers through there, so Randy, no speed, and he bumps there. Not bad transition through there. USA #1, Scheimer made a lot of mistakes through that corner. Now the bottom part of the track. He's only 21 hundredths. That's not a bad time for USA. So he went from 20 to 21. Doesn't have the speeds the other sleds do, but a 56.12. Considering the start time, USA #2 and Randy Will, the driver, pretty good down at the bottom. That's good enough for 4th place. Here's the exit out of the Kreisel. Watch this little tap, but Will doesn't try and steer away from this. He lets the sled run and allows it to accelerate even more. Good heat for the veteran pilot, Randy Will, USA #2, 4th place right now. Now up at the top of the track, from Germany, Dirk Wiese. One of the powerful German teams we've seen explode in this World Cup circuit. Good entry, 5:32, 5:32. Well, this is why the Germans are so powerful. They don't make any mistakes at the start. The first 50 meters, it's everything in bobsledding. Look at the continuity of the feet coming up and down, the entry into the sleds with cat-like movements. All 4 of them are down, arms up, push bars away. Oh, he's -11 off the best time right there. Best time we've seen so far is marked out of Great Britain. And here comes Dirk Wiese. Now he's -18. Same speed as we've seen everybody else, 113.68. Out of Kreisel, oh, bad skid out of Kreisel. A little bit of a bad skid again there, and 12 to 13. So Wiese's got his hands full, but he's still got the time at the bottom. He's a 1400s lead. Dirk Wiese, Germany, into the finish. Looking for the lead, he's got it. 55.82, even though he had skid problems all the way down the track. But when you got a superior start time, you can have those skid problems down the track. So there's our leader right now, Dirk Wiese, Germany 2. Now up at the top of the track, USA #3, Jim Herbert driving, coming off a great finish in Wittenberg in a Jeff Bodine bobsled.
Two-man was what I thought was a really good success. We were the 2nd place USA sled. We had a great second run. It was the 7th fastest. I felt really good about that. Our starts aren't quite where they should be, but they're getting better, so hopefully that bodes well for the future. 4-man, however, was a big disappointment. We were struggling during training. We struggled during the race. Again, a pretty good second heat, but the first heat was awful, so 21st place we're not really happy with. Hopefully we can turn that around in the races coming up in Altenberg and then Calgary.
On the team with Herbert, Scott Stoll, Kyle Meadows, and Chip Minton on the brakes. Little change up on his team from the last race. 5:32 is the best start, 5:50. Changing individuals up in your team in between World Cup races isn't what you want to be doing during the season. You want to do that before the season starts. Now let's watch here as they enter the sled. See if they all get down pretty quick. No, the #3 man's still getting there a little late. And again, bobsledding is a sport where you want to build continuity and teamwork, and you can't do it during the season. And the other teams that are top of the leaderboard right now are teams that have been together for 2 or 3 months, sometimes 2 and 3 years. Here comes Herbert up and down on this tight 300 or 280-degree Kreisel. Nice exit, but boy, 70 hundredths off the pace. Doesn't matter how clean you are down here. It's pretty tough to overcome that start deficiency. Oh, and he's banging there in the speed part of the course. 121.35 kilometers. Everybody else has been up way above that. Jim Herbert into the finish. 79 hundredths off the pace. Good enough for 16th place for USA #3. Here he is in the Kreisel going up and down. The straight low line is what you want. Jim didn't have that here at all. Now out of curve 13, watch this skid. Oh, a lot of friction here, a loss of a lot of time. Not a good heat for USA 3, Jim Herbert. Top of the leaderboard at the end of the first heat, it's Germany 2 and Dirk Wiese. Great Britain, Mark Towth in second, the Austrian Schossers in third. USA's Randy Will, 5th place, only 30 hundredths off the pace. Scheimer and Herbert 17th and 19th place respectively. When we come back, it's the second heat of this
years ago, the Vikings loaded up their ships and headed out to discover the rest of the world. Well, coming up this February here in Hamar, Norway, the world will be coming here for for the Olympic Games, but they still remember the old, turn things around a little bit with the upside-down Viking ship. Hammer Hall will be the site for speed skating at the Olympic Games, and right now it's time on Winter Speed for another York Olympic venue update and a closer look at this unique structure.
York supplied the refrigeration system for the Hammer Olympia Hall, which will be used for speed skating, curling, and short track speed skating during the Olympics. The Olympia Hall is a unique facility in that it is designed to resemble an upside-down Viking ship. The refrigeration system which we supplied for this facility is pretty unique in that it's going to perform not only the refrigeration effect for the speed skating oval, but also will handle all the dehumidification that's necessary in that facility and perform heat reclamation at the same time. So it'll heat, dehumidify, and refrigerate the facility all in one.
On the subject of speed skating, it was 62 years ago that Jack Shea of Lake Placid, New York, won 2 gold medals on his hometown track. What a memory that was. The Olympics were so much different then. No indoor high-tech structures. They all skated outdoors no matter what the weather was. But when you listen to Jack Shea talk, you really get a sense of the feeling and the pride that athletes felt, at least back in the 1930s. Opening ceremonies for the 3rd Winter Olympic Games in Lake Placid, New York. The USA flag is being carried by a speed skater, hometown boy Jack Shea. Shea took time off from Dartmouth College to compete in these Olympic Games. The ceremonies would not be his greatest honor. Jack Shea went on to win 2 gold medals.
February 4, 1932, I count that as a gold medal day, and I've had 60 gold medal memories since that time. Gold medal memories because I remember just as if it were yesterday, that indescribable thrill, that indescribable honor of winning that gold medal in Lake Placid, my hometown, before Franklin D. Roosevelt.
This 500-meter race, at the crack of the gun, I took the lead and was fortunate enough to keep that lead until I crossed the tape for the glory of the United States.
And as the Star-Spangled Banner was playing, to see the flag of the United States of America being raised to that position of honor and victory, it was a kind of an event that cannot be described. It was a thrill that would actually make anyone's hair stand on end.
Jack Shea with that gold medal winning smile. As you can see, they're clearing off the track in Altenberg. Much more bobsledding to come. When we return,
Germany here on Winter Speed. End of the first heat. Germany 2 is in first. Great Britain marked out second place. Austria 1 and third. USA's Randy Will in fifth place, right there for a medal. Up now, the world champion in 2-man bobsledding, Christoph Langen of Germany. This is 4-man bobsledding, and he's not as good a 4-man driver. Look at here, almost crashing in the first heat. You talk about maximizing the articulation of the sleds. Well, this is what you do here in Altenberg, Germany, the most challenging track on the World Cup circuit. Here comes Langen and his team. He gets a much better 2-man start than he does 4-man start, but 5:34, only 300ths off the pace, isn't a bad start. But Christoph Langen's got to learn how to apply his 2-man world championship skills into a 4-man sled. Look at the start here. Look at the way they enter the sled. Cat-like movements, we always say in bobsledding. They get their arms up and down. Good start for Christoph Langen in Germany. Here's where he had his problems, right here at curve 9. How's he do it this time? He learned his lesson from the first heat. Speed, only 113.68. That's good speed considering the way the snow is falling here out of Chrysalie Banks. Here out of curve 11, 12, and 13, the head snap. He's in a skid. 47.90. Another big skid. He's only 500ths off the pace now. Langen's got to hum it on the bottom here, or he could lose his place. Christoph Langen, +7 in that heat. Good enough for first place overall. He had a 0.10 lead, but boy, he made some mistakes. Look at the sled bang there. He didn't steer away. The runners are still straight and coming at us, but he's in an awful skid there. And again here, another skid. This Altenberg track really is a challenge for the bobsled drivers. You're seeing that here today. Germany 3, Christoph Long at first place overall. Now up at the top of the track, it's Canada number 2, Chris Laurie, veteran pilot. Chris Farstead, Baptiste, and Glenroy Gilbert. 5:34, only 300ths off the pace. Great start by Canada. Laurie, 4th place at the Albertville Winter Olympic Games in 4-man. Look at the heads going bobbing straight ahead, in quickly and sitting down. Great start by Canada. He's 300ths off the pace at the start, only 200ths now. Let's watch him at a curve 9 to try and see if Laurie can narrow the gap. That's a great exit. 1:13.68 the best speed. No speed though, only 1:12.5. Let's watch it here. Another great exit by Laurie. Oh, he's perfect. Chris Laurie, proven why he's one of the best drivers in the world. Look at that, everybody else is in skids all over the place. Laurie's got the sled perfectly controlled down the track. He's got a lead going to the finish. Let's see if he can hold it. -12 in this heat, Chris Laurie, 1st place overall for Canada. He just proved why he's one of the best drivers in the world. Total time 1:52.42. Chris Laurie of Canada on top of the leaderboard. Now up at the top of the track, Czech Republic number 1. One of the best starting teams in the world. Back to Monaco at the Busch Championship, seen earlier in winter speed. The Czech Republic posts the best start times in both the 2 and the 4-man and win the overall title at Monte Carlo. They showed their excitement there that day by being the best starting team in the world. And now Jerry DeMiro and his Czech teammates want to prove they're the best starting team in the world on ice. The snow is really coming down here at Altenberg. 5:31, the best start so far. Their time, 5:32. They're only 100th off the pace. Look at him duck his head right below that cowling for aerodynamic efficiency. Again, here comes the Czechs coming right at us. Little side-to-side action. Getting down a little late, the 3-man, but still a great start. Boy, but he went from +1 to +6. That's not a good sign. Let's watch him here at a curve 9. Does he flop it? Yes, he does. A little late, that causes a skid. 112.5, very similar speed as Chris Laurie of Canada had. He bangs hard out of there. Oh, there's the sled up in the air. The same thing that Brian Scheimer of the USA did in the first heat. DeMuro made a bad mistake. Now he's +29. So when you bang up there between the curves 11 and 12, it really costs you a lot of time, and it costs the Czech Republic a lot of time. 4,400ths off the pace, 5th in this heat. He falls 4 places. Here's where he made his big mistake in the crossover from 11 to 12. Hits the take on too early in 12. The sled came way up in the air, and that's where Jerry DeMuro lost all his time for the Czech Republic. Weather conditions are deteriorating here in Altenberg, Germany, and our next competitor. It's Great Britain number 2, Sean Olsen's the driver, a British Army officer. Somebody yelling up there. It's a little bit like a weightlifting explosion up at the start. Look at that start, 5:33. So we have some bad conditions here, but the athletes, like Great Britain, are still getting off with great starts up at the top. Look at the heads coming straight at us. None of that side-to-side wasting movement into the sled. Look at their arms come up and down at the same time. Good start by the Great Britain number 2 sled. Sean Olsen's had some problems here on a curve 9. Let's see if he can get through without drifting and off to the wall. No, he doesn't. 112.5. 4 straight sleds coming through there. We've seen the same speed. Out of Kreisel, not a bad tap. 11 to 12, hits a take on a little bit early. Now he's got a skid there. So everybody, oh, the push bar's out. Look at this. The track is so tough here, not only on the athletes, but especially the equipment. It's got that push bar out. Only place I've ever seen that happen is here at Altenberg, and that could be dangerous if anybody's standing on the side of that track. Sean Olsen gets to the bottom. He's 3,500ths off the pace, good enough for 5th place. Most importantly, though, he's safely down. That push bar could have caused somebody some serious damage. Here's his first mistake, got a curve 9. Look at the sled come at us. Watch that sled tap. Look at the rudder tips. Now that's where the skid is. Boy, he lost a lot of time there. He lost more time here out of curve 13. The push bar's up, but look at the rudder tips. He's got another skid going, and you can see all that friction on the runners. We come back, it's more World Cup bobsledding from Altenberg, Germany. Stay with us.
Any kind, all done flawlessly.
Remember, at Rays, we have your body in mind.
Welcome back to Winter Speed. Our next competitor here at the York World Cup 4-man bobsledding from Altenberg, Harold Chodai, Germany #1. This is his home track. The former East German pilot knows this track like the back of his hand. Good start, 5:35. End of the first heat, he was in 8th place, and that wasn't very good. Look at the start here. Look at the heads. Everything's coming forward straight at us. Good entry and load by the push athletes. Now he's plus 1100ths off the pace. That's probably reflective of the start time, and he hopes to start diminishing that right now. Hangs it there, doesn't tap like we've seen anybody else. This is the guy that won the 93 test event, and Lillehammer is one of the favorites to win the Olympic medal if he can get out of qualifying on the German team. We keep talking about how strong the German team is. They have 7 pilots. Oh, and Chodai, and a bad skid there between 12 and 13. We'll see if that's going to cost him. Harold Chodai bangs hard in the finish, but he still ends up in first place overall because of the better first heat that he had. He's got a 700ths lead now. Here's where his mistake starts. This is in the Kreisel. Not a real big up and down like we saw at USA 3 Jim Herbert, but watch when the sled exits. The key is watch the rudder tips. The right tip shows it's coming over to the right here, and now the back end starts to skid. Look at it coming at us. So just a little flick of the hand caused that skid by Harold Chodai, but he's still atop of the leaderboard with a time of 1:52.35. Now up at the top of the track for Canada, Pierre Lueders. This Canadian team's been getting some of the best starts. Dave McEachran, Jack Pick, and Pierre Carreau makes up his 4-man team. 5:31 start. There it is. 5:26. The fastest start here in the second heat. And this is a young Canadian team who's been coming out every race. Look at that. Guy in the back's got a little side-to-side movement. The other 2 guys get in, good entry, real quick. 5:26 start. A young Canadian powerful team that Lueders only lacks with driving experience. And boy, in Altenberg, they can really hurt you, but he's got a beautiful exit right there. 1:13.68. That's the best speed we've seen so far in this heat. Boy, but he just erased some time there. Oh, and he's got the back end of the sled up in the air there. Lueders erasing all sorts of time here in the bottom. He's banging everything in sight. Now he's plus 10. He went from a -8 to a plus 10 into the finish. He might have erased a great time, and he did. Pierre Lueders from Canada is going to drop at least 2 places. He's 1900ths now down, and this is his first mistake. Between 11 and 12, the sled's up in the air. He tried to steer out of the skid. Another mistake here out of curve 13. Front end of the bunk hits. Side-to-side movement. Pierre Lueders showing his inexperience driving the sled. He's in 3rd place right now overall. Now up, the policeman from Cortina, Italy, Pasquale Gasquito, Italian #1. Tartaglia, Stiffy, and Ruggiero. Very experienced team. Oh, but the #2 man couldn't get in the sled. 5:37 start. The replay will show you the #2 man had a hard time loading the sled, and that's going to cost him some time. Watch the guy on the left-hand side of your screen. He jumps in. You think that's easy? It's not. His right foot gets caught up, and that'll cost him some time, but it'll really cost him down the track. Now he's 2,700ths behind. I'm sure that's because of the way they loaded that sled. Clean exit, oh, but only 112.5. That's in relation to that problem at the start, and he's going up and down the Kreisel. Not a bad exit. And that threw in 12 and 13. He was in 6th place here to the first heat. Gasquito showing his magical hands down the track. Ooh, he misses the takedown there in the finish. Let's see if it's going to cost him. He ducks his head at the finish. Aerodynamics. Oh, it's 4th place overall. So Gasquito, problems entering the sled. He's going to drop a couple places to 4th place overall. Total time 1:52.57. When they look at the replay of that, they won't be happy with that load at the top of the track because it really cost them at the bottom. Now up at the top of the track, it's USA number 2, Randy Will, a guy who likes traveling down this Altenberg track.
Yeah, I always do pretty well here in Altenberg, so I'm really looking forward to this one. This is my last year in Altenberg, so I want to go out with a halfway decent result.
And the results are going to have to start right here at the first 50 meters to give him any kind of a chance for a medal at the bottom. Randy Will, 5th place into the first heat. Chris Coleman, Joe Sawyer, Jeff Woodard, all 3 of them 92 Olympians. Start time 5:37. That 700's better than their first heat. He's going to need every 100. Look at the galloping done by the guy on the left side, Woodard. He's 6'3", 235 pounds. You got to get in that little tiny clamshell and ride down this track at 80 miles an hour speed. Will is now 1,500ths off the pace. Watch him at curve 9. Not bad at all. The speed in the left, 112.5. That is bad. In the Kreisel, a nice low line. The exit out. Bang. Through 11 and 12. Not so bad, but now he's got the skid. Boy, that's picking a lot of sleds apart and really adding to the time at the bottom. Another skid between 13 and 14. Will into the finish with 120 kilometers at 72 mile an hour plus speeds. His time, oh, he drops a couple places. Randy Will, 3,600ths off the pace, and that's going to move him out of medal contention. Here's his mistake out of Kreisel. You can see the skid. He taps the wall. Randy Will lost a little bit of time there, and I'm sure he's very disappointed. The top 4 sleds are yet to come. And as soon as they make the repairs of the Altenberg track, we'll have them. Stay with us and wait for our IBM tactical moment in bobsledding. This week we focus on the development of the tracks. The early bobsled tracks of the world were actually roads between towns and villages in Europe. The first track built for competition was built by Major Buford and opened in St. Moritz February 16, 1885. Ice and snow formed the tracks, and when the sleds got heavier, it forced organizers to start using ice blocks out of the lake to form the straightaways and the walls, or what they call the corners, in bobsled tracks. As time went on, track designers continued to improve the design of their tracks, which resulted in faster speeds by the bobsled competitors. The big change in bobsledding happened in 1964 when luge became an Olympic sport. Then Bob and luge competed on separate natural tracks, but at the Olympic Games in Innsbruck in '76, they built a combo track, an artificially cooled structure. The track built for the Olympics this winter in Lillehammer uses 882 tons of refrigerant to maintain perfect ice conditions. This space-age facility is a far cry from the tracks used in the earlier part of this century. This bobsled tactical moment has been brought to you by IBM ThinkPad, the official notebook computer of the U.S. Bob team. Our next competitor at the top of the track, it's Swiss number 1, Christian Meiler. Another great bobsled pilot from Switzerland. Start time 5:26. That's Pierre Luders of Canada. Miley with a 5:37. Luders wishes he could drive like Miley, and Miley wishes he could push the sled like Luders. His team here, good technique as they enter the sled. They all get down very properly, except the number 3 man hanging a little bit. But he's 1,100ths down at the start, 1,600ths now. But watch this guy drive the sled. No skid, 112.5. We've seen that similar speed. That's relative to his start time. Sled got away from him right there, though, up and down in the Kreisel. He makes a little bang, but through 11 and 12 is one of the smoothest sleds we've seen so far. We'll see how smooth he is right here in this clock. Oh, he's got the lead. Christian Miley, proving why he's one of the better drivers in the world. Good eyes and good hands even in the snow. The finish, good enough for first place. Christian Miley maintains at least a 4th place finish in this competition with the fastest time in his heat. Watch this exit off curve 9. Everybody else has been in a skid flopping over on that right-hand wall. Miley barely drifts over, and the sled comes straight correctly right at us. Here he is now through 11 and 12. Everybody else is just about sideways through here. Look at Miley. One of the best pilots in the world, Christian Miley. He's now atop of the leaderboard. Close behind, Germany won Harold Chodai. Canada won Chris Lorry's in third place. When we come back, it's the top three sleds going for the gold. Schasser, he's in third place now. But in Winterberg, Germany, he won the gold medal in the four-man World Cup, the first one of the year, with a record run in the final heat, and put himself as a medal favorite at the upcoming games in Lillehammer. He's in third place now. His team, Rydell, Winkler, Heidchecker. Oh, a little problem with the number 3 man getting in, but not too much of a problem with the start time, 5:30. This is the silver medalist from last year's World Championships. He's driving the sled that Ingo Appel won the gold medal with in Albertville. Watch the guy in the left. See that back foot just kick out on him? Doesn't look like it cost him too much time. Let's watch him here out of curve 9. Right here is where all the problems start for the bobsled drivers. But not for Schasser. 112.5. That's not as good a speed as we've seen from a couple other sleds. Out of Kreisel. Bang. That's going to cost him. He's got a -5 there. And a skid, though, between 12 and 13. Watch him out of 15. He's -2. That -5 went from -2. 120 kilometers. That's 72 miles an hour plus. Into the finish. Schasser trying to take the lead. He does. He's only 200ths down in this heat, but he had a 900ths lead in the first heat. So Schasser of Austria guarantees himself at least a bronze medal in the competition. Watch this bang here out of Kreisel. This is his first of a couple mistakes in the bottom. But out of curve 11, he made that mistake, and here in curve 12, it cost him to go up too high. This course is unrelenting for anybody coming down. Look at the skid he's in there. No matter what, though, Schasser got at least a bronze medal in the competition. Our next competitor at the top of the track, Great Britain won, Mark Tout. One of the reasons he's in second place here to the first heat, he's got better athletes on his sled.
We've got a really strong squad this year, Great Britain generally. We've got some new guys in the sport from athletics because now the Summer and Winter Olympics are separated, so we've got guys in track and field coming into bobsleigh now. So the British team is really, really strong.
Is this it for Mark Tout this Olympics? You're going to go on to a career, or are we looking at you in Japan?
You'll see me in Japan. That's for sure. I mean, why? I mean, I've been doing it for 14 years now. We're now one of the best teams in the world. Why stop? You know, keep it going. I'm 32 years young, so why not?
32 years young and 14 years in the sport of bobsledding, a very experienced pilot. Great technique. A couple new guys in the sport their first year. 5:34 start. That's why he's up in the top 3. He has that great start. But he's also a great pilot on this very challenging track. Look at the heads. A little bit of side to side in the brakeman, definitely the guy on the right. He's got to learn to put all those movements straight ahead, but still a very, very good start time for Great Britain, Mark Tout. Now he's only got 100th of a lead on the Austrian Schasser. Oh, and he really flops it out of there, but the sled comes straight. Same speed as Schasser. He's +10 though. So Tout, bang, you heard the cowling bang there. Now it's only +5. So Mark Tout narrowing the gap that he had at the halfway part of the track. Good speed, 121.35. That's the best speed we've seen so far. Tout to the finish. He's got it. Mark Tout carried the best speed to the bottom part of the track and put himself on top of the leaderboard. Great Britain guaranteed at least a silver medal. Here he is, top part of the track. He's +16 up here. But Mark Tout, great driving down the rest of the track, had the best speed into the finish. Right here, look at the rudder tips coming at us out of curve 9. He doesn't try and steer the sled away. He lets the sled run straight, and that's why he had that great speed in the bottom. A great drive down by the British Army officer, Mark Tout. And they like it. And like it they should, because Tout and team has guaranteed himself at least a silver medal. Austrian Schasser's in second place. Swiss pilot Christian Miley is the guy on the bubble, because we have one sled yet to come. He's the only guy that could change up the top 3. It's Germany number 2.
International, world leader in heating, air conditioning, and refrigeration technology for sports venues. By Columbia Sportswear Company. And by the IBM ThinkPad, official notebook computer of the U.S. bobsled team.
Welcome back to World Cup 4-man bobsledding. We're down to our last sled in the competition. The guy who has the chance to disrupt this leaderboard. Right now, it's Great Britain in town in first, Austria in second, Swiss in third. But Dirk Wies in first place here to the first heat. A slim 600 to the second lead. Hometown crowd from Germany will be cheering him on. There's what he needs to win. Germany number 2. Needs to start 5:33 or so to be competitive. A lot of snow coming down here. Slowing things down. 55:26 is the Canadian start. And Dirk Wies matches the best start of the competition with all the snow coming down on the track. So a superhuman effort by the Germans might give them a chance to win the gold. Look at the way they enter the sled. Watch how clean they are. In and down. Watch their arms come up. Underneath, perfect. Now here he is out of curve 9. This is where the problems start for everybody else. Let's see how Wies does. Coming straight at us. Ducks his head for a little aerodynamics. 112.50 speed. In the Kreisel. Let's see if he taps out of here. Yes, he does. And he bumped here. No, nice transition. 700's lead. Ooh, a little high there and a bump. Let's look for his runner tips. Coming straight at us. Dirk Wies corrected it. 120 kilometers, 72 miles an hour. Into the finish. Does Wies gonna win it? Yes! Dirk Wies of Germany wins his first World Cup 4-man bobsled competition. Definitely puts himself in a position to qualify for the German Olympic team. His biggest victory ever. Germany number 2, Dirk Wies takes home the gold medal. A big day for that man right there. Look at the runner tips here out of curve 9. He lets the sled run off the corner. No skid like we've seen everybody else have. And that's an experienced pilot. Look at him duck his head there for aerodynamics. He's got that much confidence as he enters the Kreisel. Here out of curve 13, he made a mistake going in. But again, the sled does not drift. Look at those runner tips coming straight at us. He's allowing this sled to go. Our winner, Dirk Wies of Germany 2.
All right, thanks, John Morgan. So Dirk Wies takes the title 200ths of a second better than Great Britain. For the Americans, a top 10 finish for Randy Will, but the big story, last year's winner, Brian Scheimer, 16th place. He's with Blaine Applegate.
All right, Tim, thank you very much. Standing by with Brian Scheimer. Brian, I know it's been a tough trip in Germany. I guess you guys are pretty anxious to get out of here at this point.
Yeah, there's no doubt. We're pretty anxious. You know, we're looking forward to getting to Lillehammer and getting some testing done and going fast there. It's just been tough to focus on the World Cup here because, you know, the only one that counts this year for us is Lillehammer.
Okay, Brian, thank you very much. Tim, back to you.
All right, thanks very much, Blaine Applegate. So some troubles for the American program. It was just 1 year ago here in Winterberg that the U.S. was winning its second of 3 straight World Cup events, and things were on a roll. So much, in fact, a year ago that before the champagne had even settled, NASCAR race car driver Jeff Bodine decided he wanted to get into the action. Bodine and some of his top car builders made a trip to Lake Placid, New York, where they inspected just how a bobsled is made. They've spent the past year working and perfecting the first American-made bobsled in nearly 40 years, and next time on Winter Speed, we will showcase the Bodine Project. All that and more coming up next time on Winter Speed, but one last time we salute the winners here in Altenberg, Germany 2, and driver Dirk Wies. Well, for John Morgan and all of us at Winter Speed, I'm Tim Singer. That'll do.
Our sled finished 5th. It was driven by Larry McKillop. General Motors entered the picture and designed a sled in 1965 that had a lot of promise. Bickering between bobsled officials about who was to drive it, along with an untimely crash in St. Moritz, left General Motors no choice but to pull out and bring the sled back to Detroit. At the 1968 games in Grenoble, France, the USA bobsled team brought another experimental sled along with them, and USA sled coach Jim Lamey, who happened to be the brakeman on that last bronze medal sled in '56, expressed concerns about this new design.
The secret's out here in the Olympics that you have a revolutionary new sled. Is this the sled here?
The sled we're working on is a sled that we're trying out. It was made by Neisinger out of New York. It's been on the run twice in St. Moritz and once here. We're still not sure whether we'll use it or not.
Or what's the secret of this sled?
Why,
What's revolutionary about it?
It's 2 or 3 different kinds of sleds combined into one. The runners are different, the action is different, the steering is different. Actually, we don't know what it'll be like till we get more trips down the mountain with it.
Needless to say, that sled didn't win a medal for the U.S. as the Americans did all they could do to finish 5th in the 4-man competition. At the 1972 games in Sapporo and 76 games in Innsbruck, the U.S. teams drove Italian-made equipment, but they continued to fall from its dominating role in the sport. But at the 1980 Olympics in Lake Placid, U.S. sledders had 2 sled projects that both had a lot of promise. David Stevens of Excalibur Car Corporation in Milwaukee designed a sleek machine that employed a joystick steering mechanism that was rushed into production before all the needed testing was done. The other project, headed up by Ohio's Dale Smith, the inventor of fuzzbuster radar detectors, had some radical designs on an existing Italian sled frame, such as a clamshell-type close, and this helped the USA team finish 5th in the 2-man competition at Lake Placid, one of its best Olympic performances since the mid-60s. Other automobile companies such as Opel were also trying to make the world's best bobsled for the German team, but their radical design that included a windshield concept failed miserably in Cortina at the Worlds in '81, and crashes resulted in Opel ending the project. At the Games in 1984, Letterly Laboratories funded a project for the USA team that also failed, and now U.S. sledders were still forced to compete in European equipment. Here, USA Jeff Jost finishes 5th in a 4-man that he bought from the Swiss only days before the competition started. At the 1988 Games in Calgary, USA hopes were once again high with a project funded by Airflow Science Corporation of Liftonia, Michigan. The project received a tremendous amount of public relations and attention, but in the end it failed miserably. The USA's Brent Rushlaw missed a 4-man Olympic medal by only 0.02 of a second in another Italian-made sled. The 1992 Games in Albertville, France, the USA Bob teams were once again in European equipment. But a new idea was created for a hopeful end to the USA medal drought at the Olympic Games in bobsledding. I'm now joined by NASCAR racer Jeff Bodine, the guy who thinks that the United States Olympic bobsled team should be driving made-in-America bobsleds. Jeff, long time this project's been going on, but tell me, how'd you first get involved in this whole thing?
Really hasn't been that long now, John. It's only about 1.5 years, and that's been a problem for us. But I got involved by watching the Olympics, saw that our athletes weren't winning, kind of wondered why. I always felt like we had the best athletes in the world. So why couldn't these guys win in bobsledding? I mentioned it to a friend of mine. He called Lake Placid, arranged a ride. We flew up to Lake Placid, took a ride in a bobsled, and Bruce Roselli actually stayed in Lake Placid with his equipment. He gave me the ride. He actually let me drive his sled. Crazy. He said, you can handle it. You can drive 200 miles an hour, but he didn't say I could drive 90 miles an hour down a bobsled run, and I found out how tough it was. But more important, I found out that the equipment our American athletes were using wasn't made in the United States, didn't have American technology behind it. I found out they had to buy their own equipment. And being a competitive guy, a racer all my life, I know how that can affect performance. If you have to struggle to raise money to buy your equipment, instead of working out, exercising, training, that's where our athletes need to be, not out doing fundraisers. Plus, the thing about made in USA, not using American-made equipment, just blew me away. I said, this is it. Somebody needs to help you guys. Somebody needs to build you an American-made bobsled. Then I got thinking, you know, we build race cars for a living. We have people. We know people that build race cars for a living. The best engineers and builders in the whole world are right here in the United States. And a lot of them are my friends. And so I said, well, I know we can build a better bobsled than what's sitting here. I saw what Bruce had. It was pretty shabby looking. You know, nothing against the Europeans, but it was an older sled and it's just pretty rough. And made a phone call to some friends of mine I used to race against and race with and work with, Chassis Dynamics and in Oxford, Connecticut now, and asked them if they'd like to get involved in this kind of a project, and they said yes, and here we are with a fleet of American-made bobsleds.
Well, your first year in the sport, of course, last year you had the chance to test the track in Lillehammer with your prototype sled. You ran into the problems with the European jury, you might say, and here you are right before the Olympics. You've come a long ways, but the time factor has really been a problem, hasn't it?
I guess I chose the wrong time to get involved in this sport. I didn't realize they were going to change, stagger the summer and winter games. I didn't realize there was only going to be a 2-year split in between winter games. If I'd known that, I might have waited. I probably wouldn't have. I wanted to get involved now, but it has put a real serious situation in this project. Getting enough testing time, just developing, just building the equipment has been just an overwhelming job. But Bob Cuneo, Bobby Valancourt, Don Barker, all the fellows at Chassis Dynamics, all the guys that have helped them get these things ready. I mean, they deserve all this credit. I'm kind of receiving all the fame and glory here. It was my idea. We put a little money up to get it started, but those guys are the ones that put this thing on the run. They're the guys that made all this work.
Jeff, your first World Cup bobsled race here in Calgary you just experienced, and amazing to see here the Italian sleds come down, all the nuts and bolts rattling, and all of a sudden these things come by and you can't hear them at all.
They kind of sneak up on you, don't they? Yeah, we, along with everyone else, we're amazed at how quiet these sleds are. A lot of work has gone into that, though. It didn't just happen that way. They designed these sleds with all that in mind. A lot of what we learned in racing and what they've learned in racing has been applied to these bobsleds. That's the amazing part of this whole project. Chassis Dynamics had never built a bobsled before. They'd never really seen one up close. I hadn't either until I went to Lake Placid, but they all put their heads together and said, well, maybe some of the stuff we learned all these years building race cars, we can apply to these bobsleds, and a little bit has. It's really been fun seeing what worked and what didn't, and they are quiet. They hum. The two-man sleds hum. They call them hummers, and they're so quiet. A lot of the fans and the competitors are calling them a stealth. They kind of sneak up on you. You can't hear them coming. So these things have been called a lot. Hopefully, after the Olympics, they're going to be called winners.
What have you learned? What's the thing that has jumped up and grabbed you about the sport, the hardest thing to overcome?
The hardest thing to overcome, a lot of things. Nothing has been easy, really. The one thing I notice is the difference between my sport and this sport. Getting enough time to test this bobsled. In auto racing, I can go rent a track anytime, anywhere. Just go up and run all day, run a week. Whatever I need, I can just go out there anytime I want. In bobsledding, you have to fit your testing in almost when you're racing, and that's what our fellows have been doing all winter. That's why the results really haven't been what we wanted this last winter in World Cup, because during the racing, they were actually testing different suspension, different springs, runners, and all that stuff. So that's a big difference between NASCAR and bobsledding. You still have to deal with the team concept in both sports, and that's very important. And in this sport, I guess it's vital. If the team guys don't push hard, you don't get that fast push, you're not going to go fast. If my guys in racing don't prepare my car right, build those fast engines, I can't go fast. So there are a lot of similarities here.
Now, talking about the people who have been helping you out, IBM has been involved with the technical aspect. Do you think you needed this much technical support when you got involved?
The project wouldn't have gotten to this point without IBM's help, without their computers. There's no way. Chassis Dynamics couldn't have designed the bobsled. It wouldn't have come out this way. We would have had to copy the European designs, and we didn't want to do that. And so without IBM's help and support behind the project, we just have a copy here and probably have just one or two. We wouldn't be able to have this fleet that we have now. Their equipment has speeded up the process of designing and developing the bobsled. And, they're working with us and with the United States team, this United States bobsled project. But, this technology can apply to all of the teams out here. We just happen to be a little unique in starting this project now in the way we did. There's talk up and down the run about these bobsleds, and they want this technology. They want the same kind of help. So I wouldn't doubt that you're going to see more projects like this in the coming years. The other countries are going to get some help from IBM using their products. We're not looking forward to that because we know it'll make them better.
Let me ask you this. You're out on the NASCAR circuit. Every place you go, there's this sled on display. You're amazed about the fan support and the questions you get?
I've been overwhelmed by it, and it's been fantastic. I'm glad it's happening. Yeah, we have the support of what I see the whole country. This sled's been around a lot of different racetracks, a lot of different areas of the country, and everyone is just very enthused about it. Race fans, my competitors, the crews, the people at the racetracks, the first question they ask me, even during the summer, when I walk into a racetrack, was, how's your bobsled doing? And the last question when we left the racetrack, hey, how's that bobsled doing? They didn't want to know how I was racing or how I was running or what I did that day. They wanted to know about this bobsled. Made me proud to think that everyone really cared that much. And the support the media's had, just unbelievable. It's hard to imagine that this little project of building American-made bobsleds could turn into something so big and so popular.
Now, it's a long-range plan, I think, and it's safe to say that the chassis dynamics guys and yourselves are still learning a lot about coming out to the track every day.
Well, that's right. It's long range. When we get through these games, it isn't going to stop. It's going to continue. You know, we're providing these bobsleds to our athletes at no charge. This is the first. They've had to buy their own equipment. They've had to work on their own equipment day and night. We supply it free. We supply the mechanics, technicians, what we can afford free. You know, we're trying to make this sport for our athletes the best it can be, with equipment and the help, the technical help behind it. We realize our athletes need to train. They need to get the rest. They need to focus on driving and pushing and getting down the hill. They don't need to worry about how they're going to buy the bobsled or how they're going to pay off that loan they borrow to get it, or you know, who's going to polish the runners for them. They're going to have to polish them all night. So this project is pretty much free to the athletes. It's ongoing. It's going to continue. As soon as these games are over, we're going to start thinking and planning and designing for the next Olympics, try to make these things even better.
In the last 12 months, you've gone from race car driver to race car owner, bobsled team owner. What's going on with Jeff Boudin?
Yeah, a lot have happened in my life here in the last few months. We got involved in the bobsled project. We knew what we were getting into there, pretty much. I probably should have come and asked you a little bit about the sport, but we're glad we're here. And then some tragedy in our profession, our sport, this last summer with Altenberg getting killed. I ended up buying his race team, so I've taken on a lot here lately. But the key to the success here and the key to my success in racing is the people that I have working with me. You know, I can't do it alone. And so it's kind of like this team. Brian Scheimer, he can't push and drive this thing by himself. He has to have team players. And I do too in what I'm doing, and I have good team players. And folks like IBM and all the folks that have helped with this project are part of our team.
Last question here. The whole Made in America theme, is that what underlines this whole project? Is that what's, you know, got you involved the way it is?
That's it. You know, I'm proud to be an American, and as a kid growing up, you know, I always looked up to our Olympic athletes, but when I was a kid, I had to read about them in Life magazine. You know, it wasn't on television. And only recently, it really has been covered extensively on television, and that's what got me involved, watching it. And my profession, I've been very lucky to make enough money, and I have a wife, Kathy, that's understanding, and she allowed me to spend some money to get involved in this project. She thought it was worthwhile. You know, my whole family's behind it. But it is the theme behind the project, Made in America. We just feel it's very important that our athletes representing our country are using equipment made right here in America. It's like this shirt I'm wearing. You know, we're selling these things to raise funds for the project. All this stuff is made in America. We don't, we think that's very important. You know, we sell souvenirs in racing. Everything we can get, can't get 100% of the stuff, unfortunately, but everything we can get is made here in America. We believe in that.
I talked about his friend that he called to develop his Made in America bobsled, and when he first called you, what went through your mind?
Well, the funny part of the story is that when he first called me, I I had a premonition that that's what it was about. I had read in a racing paper that he was at Lake Placid driving a sled, and I know his curiosity level. And when I heard his voice, he said, "What do you think I'm calling about?" And I said, "You want me to design a bobsled?" And he was amazed. He said, "How do you know that?" And I said, "I know the way you think."
So then when he called you right away, he said, "I want you to start immediately." And what was your first thing to do? Find a sled?
Yeah, well, the first thing that happened was we met with some people from the USOC, from the U.S. Bobsled Federation, some of the existing bobsled drivers, and talked about it, how they wanted it approached. We told them what we thought we could do for them, and then it was a go. The very first thing was to get some existing sleds that we had that were built in Italy, Switzerland, Germany, and just study them and see what they had been doing. We didn't ever have any intentions of copying anybody else's design. We wanted a totally unique design, but you have to understand how your competition thinks before you can start.
So now you got the sleds, now you're developing them, and IBM jumps into the picture for you, provides some PS2 computers. Did that help things up?
Oh, sure, because we design everything on CAD system, but we're a very, very small company. We had relatively weak computers, and with all the computer iterations that we did on suspension geometry and computer modeling, it was a slow process. IBM, by giving us the personal system 2 equipment, virtually cut our computer time in half, or probably even less than half.
Here you are last year, you're in Lillehammer, and I remember your famous quote after they disqualified your sled. You thought that they disqualified it because it was going fast.
Yeah, you know, it scared people that we were so new to the sport, and we showed promise. We weren't going to win any race that day in the World Cup last year. We're probably not even ready to win a race today, but by the Olympics we'll be ready to win a race. And that worries them. They've been doing this for 40 years, and we're the new guys on the block.
Here you are, out in the first World Cup circuit. More disappointments than successes. How's your attitude?
No, we're going to get through it. You know, we've been doing automotive competition for 20 years. If I couldn't live with disappointment, I'd be long gone.
So what bites you the most about the sport that you didn't know anything about? All of a sudden, it just hit you quickly. And I'm sure in the World Cup circuit someplace, something just came to you and you said, "Wow, I wish I would have known this last summer."
I think the level of competition. We're used to, in some of the venues of auto racing, there's really, really tight competition. I don't think I expected the competition to be this tight in bobsleigh. These guys eat, drink, live bobsleigh, the Europeans and the Canadians, and we have to be good to beat them.
Gustav Vader, the Swiss, some of the other guys, who are you most impressed with out there?
I'm impressed by all of them. You know, there are some teams out there that have very little funding that do a heck of a job with no funding. There are teams out there that are super teams, like the Swiss and the Germans, that have a lot of resources, and they do a heck of a job. You have to be impressed by Gustav Vader and his people. They are absolutely like clockwork. They approach bobsleigh like Roger Penske approaches auto racing. Everything is perfect.
Now, as we go on to this project, the U.S. sleds, as we noticed in this World Cup in Calgary, they come straight down the track. Jim Herbrick and Scheimer, we saw the video. There's no variance, and you know they're quiet. I mean, they're like stealth. Is that the way you designed them?
Well, that's what we hope to accomplish. You know, we spent an awful lot of time before we ever cut a chip. We spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours trying to come up with ways to make the sleds handle better. We figured if we could make them more controllable, the drivers could have more consistent runs, and consistency wins races. So that was the goal, and right now it looks like some of it's working.
Next year, I mean, between now and then, all this data that you're getting from the onboard computers, and is this going to help you over the summer?
Oh, sure it will. You know, the biggest problem we have right now is our own learning curve. We're infants in this sport, and we're doing pretty good right now, but we're going to want to get into second-generation designs and further development based on what we've learned this year. But it's pretty exciting because when the learning curve is as steep as we're faced with now, then the improvements come pretty fast also.
How about all that onboard telemetry? What did that first show you? Did you expect to get that much information out of that?
Yeah, we did it with IBM because we knew that it would help and it would cut our development time down. When you have the learning curve that we have, you need to assimilate as much information as possible. The Europeans have garnered this information from years and years of experience. We didn't have that. We didn't have that availability of information, so we couldn't give up any information that existed in the sled. The best way to do that is to gather it into a computer as the sled's being run, so that you don't lose any bit of information, and then we unload it into our ThinkPad notebook computer at the bottom of the run, and study the graphs and charts in the room at night and prepare our test for the next day. And there's just no downtime. You keep moving on.
So all these hours, all this time in Europe, you've been away from home, you're up here right before Christmas. You spend all this time away, and is it worth it? I mean, is the money, or what is it that makes you tick? I mean, do you like the sport? What is it?
Believe me, money didn't make this thing happen. We're doing this because we want to do this. Sure, we get paid, but if you figure in the hours we have in it, it's about 50 cents an hour. We're doing it because we want to win a medal with our athletes in the games.
Bob Cuneo, the guy behind the story. You've heard from Bob Cuneo, who's built the sleds. Now we're going to talk to a couple of the guys who drive the sleds for the U.S. bobsled team, Brian Scheimer and Jim Herbrick. And Brian, I want to ask you first, when they first approached you with this idea and concept, you've been through a couple of these sled projects before. What did you think?
Well, at first I thought it was going to be one of those sled projects that come and go, and until I had the opportunity to meet, everybody from Chassis Dynamics and talk with Jeff to see how serious they really were about the program, I was ecstatic. I was excited about the whole deal.
Driving the sleds itself, Jimmy, when you first got on the sled, you got experience around the world on different sleds. When you first drove the sled down for the first time, what was your thought at the bottom?
Well, the sled's incredibly smooth. It's a lot different than the old rattle traps we're used to. It's very quiet, very smooth. You don't feel the vibrations through the seat of your pants, and it handles incredibly. When you want it to steer somewhere, it goes. It's great.
Brian, you said to me before, two-man to a four-man bobsled. The old sled takes you a couple days to get adjusted. You took off in the two-man Bodine, and you got in the four-man Bodine. You were shocked that there's such a great similarity.
Yeah, the sensitivity, the two-man is so much more sensitive than a four-man, the old style. But now the new Bodine sled is the same steering system, the same ratio in the steering. So when we go from the two-man to the four-man, we don't need that extra couple of trips to get used to the sled. We can start from day one, and knowing that the sled's going to react or handle about the same. So we can go on and think more about the lines we're going to drive instead of how we're going to get it down the hill.
Jimmy, you're the Harvard graduate. You're the only guy in the circuit in '88, and when you made the '88 Olympic team with the computer, and here's the IBM people showing up with the ThinkPad computer, plugging it into the data, the onboard data acquisition systems, and coming out with all that information. Did you think the sport was going to come to this?
Well, I was hoping it would come to this because I know that being able to use computers is going to help us in a lot of different areas. Being able to look at our times and really pinpoint where we're good and where we're bad, being able to help us with the sleds, with the data acquisition. It's a great way to give us an advantage and also to make our job easier to get us the information that's really important to tell us how we can go faster.
World Cup just completed, Brian. Two-man, coming straight down the middle of the track. I mentioned that to you. We always talk in my days of bobsledding that the smoothest trips were the slowest. The fastest trips were the ones when you're bouncing off the walls. You guys are coming right down the middle of the track, coming pretty fast, too.
Yeah, well, you know, the sled pretty much drives itself. That's one thing we had to get used to, not to drive these sleds. And it's taken me half the year to realize that the steering is so sensitive on these that the less you drive, the better it is. I think you've seen a lot of the other teams that come down out of control. I think, you know, they're just steering too much. And Jim and I, we're just getting, you know, a hang of the sleds, and we're just letting them run, and they go straight.
Jimmy, the big difference with the two-man and the four-man Bodine, was that a big change for you two, getting that Bodine sled and the four-man for the first time?
It was a bit of a change, partly because we're in the development stage still on the sleds, and so we're trying to sort things out as well as us getting used to the sleds, they're getting the sleds used to us, and so it's been a development project, so it's taken a while, but you know, it's a four-man sled. The steering is easier on us in a way because we have less to do, but we still need to control the sled. So it's taken a while to get used to, but as we get used to the sleds, we're going faster and faster, and we're really seeing the potential come through.
Both you guys were part of that recruiting class we had in 1985, and now you're at this stage now, Brian, your third Olympics, Jimmy, your second. Those big mortgage payments hanging over your heads from sleds that you had to buy yourself to qualify for the U.S. team. You think this would be a great asset to the U.S. program when a driver can come up here and know that the equipment's just provided for them, they can just show up? How important is that for recruiting athletes?
There's no doubt to take that burden off of athletes' shoulders, to let him concentrate more on training throughout the summer, as well as, you know, getting his team together in the summer and putting a good team together and not worry about knocking on doors, you know, fundraising all summer, wondering if you're going to be able to slide that following year because you either don't have the funds or the sleds to do it.
Jimmy, you just bought a brand new Sapias, $20,000 right out of the box, and now you're out renting it to another team. Big asset to the future for the U.S. program?
Oh, definitely. It was certainly a burden on me having to come up still this year, having to qualify, get to the position I'm in, having to figure out what I'm going to do for equipment, and I needed to get the equipment for this fall. If I didn't have to do that, I could worry more about preparing myself, preparing my team, as Brian said. It's a huge benefit not to have to worry about that. It's so expensive in our sport just to be able to get on the hill. We can't participate at all without the sleds. The sleds are almost ridiculously expensive. So to take that worry away from us really is going to allow us to concentrate on our on-the-hill performance.
Thanks, guys. Good luck in Lillehammer. And, you know, behind them are the riders or the brakemen or the pushers on the sleds. They've got their own thoughts about riding in these Bodine sleds. Let's hear from them.
I tell you what, in the 6 years I've done this, to get out of the bottom of the sled and find an IBM ThinkPad computer coming out, and they plug it into the sled, and they're getting data as far as the G-forces and the speeds and everything like that. It's coming a long way. I'm real excited for the things to come this year.
You know, it's the 90s. Technology's taking over everything. So maybe it can help us out, and, you know, hopefully it will. And, you know, a big plug for U.S.
Today's program, we're featuring the Jeff Bodine Made in America Bobsled Project. One of the corporations that got behind Jeff Bodine at the early stages was IBM. We asked sports marketing representative Bob Lohman of their intentions.
Well, my first inclination about the Bodine Bobsled Development Project was when I saw Jeff on television, the Daytona 500 back last February. That was my first exposure to the project at all. Didn't even know it existed until then.
What was the first thing that they wanted to do? You know, you called up, said you wanted to get involved. What was the direction that IBM wanted to take?
Well, my inclination was that this is an all-American story. I mean, this is you know, various facets of people in the U.S. getting together to do something that was right and correct and proper for the U.S. and our athletes. And when I saw this, when I became aware of the project, it was my feeling that IBM could make a great contribution from the standpoint of contributing technology to contribute to the design and also to look for ways to enhance the speed of the sleds. I mean, we're trying to compress a 3 or 4 year effort into 15 or 18 months, and technology is a tremendous way to enhance that activity. So my idea was, gee, you know, maybe we can contribute the things that IBM is good at, which is technology, computers, design,
that sort of value. So that was my first thought.
You've seen a lot of results, a lot of things coming and going. Everybody talks, it's the time. They're just a short period of time here.
Right. You know, we're making tremendous progress in this program, and time is very short. And a lot of people have got to pull together to bring this project to the point that we really want it. You know, we've already accomplished in terms of our ability to compete. We've already accomplished an awful lot, but you know how we are. We want to win. We want to be on the medal stand when we get to the Olympics, when it comes to the Olympics. And so it's an awful lot of work to get that extra 10% that we're going to need to get there.
As the Bodine project rushes towards Lillehammer, the track where the competition will be held at the Olympics is probably the most environmentally correct facility in the world. It's now time for our York venue update.
Environment was a real careful consideration in Lillehammer. Almost everything that they did took into consideration impact on the environment. At Hundertfossen, for instance, we were asked to build a refrigeration system which completely gasketed and sealed off all the ammonia refrigeration piping so that there weren't possibilities of non-contained leaks. We also utilized our computer control system to regulate and circuit control ammonia so that if there is the possibility of a leak, that it's restricted and contained to a small, tiny section of the track. So by far and away, there's no question this is going to be the most...
Got involved with this Made in America bobsled project, but the guy he's turned the PR reins over to is here, Joe Huff. Joe's running all the public relations, and Joe, on the NASCAR circuit this year with this sled, were you amazed at the amount of people that come up to it?
Absolutely amazed, because you're constantly being told that bobsledding is strictly a sport that the people who lived in the northeast area cared about. They're the only ones who really cared about the bobsledding. But when I started taking this sled all over the country, in particular down in the southeast, I was totally amazed at the thousands of people who came up to the sled. And then the beauty of it was they said, hey, bobsledding is our favorite winter sport, much more even than the figure skating. And they said, how come we don't see more of it on television?
Were you surprised, though, at all the people that kept on coming up, or when you first got the job? How did Jeff Bodine or Joe Geisinger call you up?
Well, it was rather interesting that I'd recently left the other company, the company I was involved with, and they called me and said, hey, we've got a little project that we want you to look after. So they dumped the files in my lap and said, here, go get it. We need some money. So it's been a joy, quite honestly, to go around the country to, if you will, see the patriotism of the American public. It's like they wanted to grab something that was so good, because we've just, you know, had our heads beat in the ground, it seems like, all the time about things that are made in America are no good. They wanted to grab something good, wave that flag, and they saw this project as something good.
How about all the pins and the hats and the shirts, and how's all that going?
That's going on good. We are just in the process of finishing up now. Our brochure is being printed, and we want to get this out to everybody in America, and by them calling us at 1-800-BOBSLED, we'll be able to give them other information if they so desire, as well as get their addresses and phone numbers. We'll send them a brochure and show them all the beautiful apparel that we've got made in America. Again, we stress that. They can order that from us. And all the proceeds go to the Bobsled Project to help our American athletes.
So here you are, a guy from the South, and now you're up here in these winter sports. Did you ever dream that you'd be up here involved in a winter sport like this?
Never have, John. The beauty of it, though, I've always dreamed, always wanted to be involved in the sports world and on an international basis, and by darn, this is getting me real close to it, and I love every minute of it. Even though, you know, I'm a staff of one, basically, and so you're going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but it's again, the touch of the American public and the adrenaline that's flowing, it just gets you pumped up, and you don't get that exhausted over it. You want to go more. Just let's touch some more lives, if you will.
So the trailer you got, that beautiful, beautiful trailer that you got driving around, people stopping you on the highway?
Oh, they are. That's another joy going down the road. They will honk their horns, give me the thumbs up, you know, shake their fist up in the air, and just indicate that it's a joy. They're pleased. They're glad somebody's doing it. I have people follow me into the service stations, into the rest stops. I really have to be careful. I'm representing not only Jeff Bodine, but the United States of America. So it's made me a better person, I feel.
Welcome back to Winter Speed and our story on the Jeff Bodine Made in America bobsled. You're probably looking at an IBM computer here, a ThinkPad, and wondering what I'm doing with it, but let me ask IBM's Jack McCauley about the comparison, the involvement of the IBM computers with the bobsled story.
Well, IBM is in the business of providing information technology, in this case personal computers like ThinkPad, to our customers to help them with their business problems and help them succeed in their business. And we first heard about where the bobsled project was, and we thought this would be an opportunity for us to demonstrate to our many customers in an exciting way how IBM can provide solutions and provide technology to help you succeed. So our plan was to provide PS2 computers to help design the systems and ThinkPads to help improve the performance of both the sleds and the athletes, and do it in a way that would be interesting to people, would be a story that people would be excited to hear about, contributing to the Made in America bobsled project. And I think businessmen can identify with all the things that Bob Cuneo at Chassis and Jeff Bodine are trying to deal with, and how computers can help them compete and succeed. And that was our plan, and we're very happy where things are right now.
You were in Lillehammer when they had the onboard simulators and the computers, and they downloaded the information at the bottom and the athletes' expressions. Was that a little overwhelming for the athletes?
Well, when I first arrived at Lillehammer, there was a level of excitement that I didn't anticipate. I think all the athletes, for the first time, all of them were getting a chance to look at the sled, see the sled, see how the technology had enabled them to produce what they had produced in a short period of time, and the excitement level was very high, and we all kind of got swept away in the project and the success of it, and it's been a real exciting thing for IBM to be involved in and to help contribute to.
They say that bobsledding is the most technically advanced sport in the Winter Summer Olympic Games. Now that you've been involved a little bit, now you've seen some World Cup competitions, do you believe that?
I think without a doubt, at least we're taking that look at it, that technology can really provide an advantage here. And we found that not only with improving the sled and designing the sled, but there is the opportunity with data acquisition work and the use of the ThinkPads to help even improve the performance of the athletes. They're getting information from what happens in the sled that they didn't and we didn't anticipate being able to get. And we were able to see how this could be used with the coaches, how they could take this information and really help their athletes improve. And that's been an interesting side of it that I, for one, didn't anticipate when we started the project.
Another thing you probably didn't anticipate is they're going to stuff you in one of these sleds and send you down the track, Jack. What was it like? You took your first ride, you got to the bottom. What was your thought?
Well, it was an incredible experience. It's one everyone should take advantage of if they get the chance. I'm a kind of a fan of roller coasters, and this goes beyond anything I've experienced in a roller coaster.
Thanks, Jack. Well, we've taken a look at the... We've heard from the designers, we've heard from the athletes. Now here's a report filed by Tim Singer on the progress of the sleds in the World Cup circuit.
The Bodine sleds made their racing debut at the Lillehammer Olympic track for the USA bobsled team trials in October 1993. USA #1 driver Brian Scheimer was the only driver scheduled to use the sleds more in a testing mode, as he had already qualified to represent the USA on the World Cup circuit through his 1993 World Cup results, where he won the 4-man and overall World Cup titles. After Scheimer smashed the existing track record and blew away the other 4 USA sleds, other USA competitors wanted to use the 2 other available Bodine 2-man sleds and did for the second race. USA pilot Bruce Roselli finished last in the first race, but when he switched to a Bodine sled, he moved up to second. The story was Scheimer, who again blew away the field and finished first. The 4-man competition was a different story. The 4-man sleds were brand new and were seeing their first trips ever down the track compared to the 2-man, which had been tested the year before. Scheimer and team finished second in both races using the Bodine 4-man and was beaten by 2-time Olympian Randy Will. The gap between the first and second race was closed considerably, and USA Olympic team manager Dave Kurtz expressed confidence about the Bodine project.
These guys are practical speed merchants. They know how to make objects go fast. They've proven themselves on the NASCAR circuit, Indianapolis 500, and we're just excited about the way they're able to convince the athletes that they're true professionals and what they make works.
At the first World Cup race, Scheimer finished 10th and rookie Jim Herbrick 15th. It was hard to judge Scheimer's performance as his starts were hampered by injury. Next stop, Winterberg, and Scheimer went back to the sled he used last year, finishing 7th. Herbrick, though, stayed with the Bodine sled and finished 12th with the 7th fastest heat in the second heat. In Calgary, the sleds really started to show their worth. Both Scheimer and Herbrick finished 7th and 8th respectively.
Well, all of America can be proud of the fact that the USA athletes will be driving Made in America sleds. We should also applaud Jeff Bodine, his Made in America